Hey there, Smite fans, Aggro here. Look, every single year, the SPL just keeps getting better. Season 7 was incredible, and in Season 8, I'm sure our players are going to take their game to the next level. But in order to do that, they're going to need the best gear they can get their hands on. And that's why I'm so excited to announce that the title sponsor for Season 8 of the SPL is Alienware. Yeah, that Alienware. Our players are getting the best of the best in computer gaming. These Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition PC setups are insane. Not only will these be the PCs that the players will compete on once we are in studio, but Alienware is also providing one for each player at their home setup to make sure their practice is as good as possible. Now let's get down to brass tacks. The specs on these Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition desktops are amazing. An AMD Ryzen 9 16-core processor.
That's a lot of cores.
That's plenty of processing power.
That's a lot of cores. Plenty of cores.
If you want to stream, this is the way to go.
I know a lot about my cores, so. I mean, Pilates, right?
64 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM.
What? Is that true?
That is true.
I mean, this thing has 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM.
Which you can do literally anything with.
Literally anything.
I've never had more than 16 gigs.
That's quadruple the amount I have at home.
And one of the hottest commodities in the PC world, an NVIDIA GeForce 3090 graphics card.
Insane how much better this is than what I have.
The best graphics you really need, Ultra, of course.
Content's gonna look good.
What's the point of all the power if you can't see it? Players will also be using the Alienware 25-inch 240Hz monitors.
Man, when I load into scrims with this bad boy, I'm gonna feed so hard. And it's gonna be in perfect picture quality.
We are so excited to be partnering with Alienware for Season 8 of the Smite Pro League. And the best part is, this VIP treatment, it's not just for the pros. You too can get the best possible Smite experience. Just go to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code SMITEAW to get special discounts on some of Alienware's best products. Thanks again to Alienware. Make sure you're following them on Twitter and Instagram. That's @Alienware on both platforms. And you can join their community at alienwarearena.com.
And you're telling me an alien wore this?
Welcome, Smite fans, to the moment you've all been waiting for, the SPL, here for Week 5, Phase 2, Day number 2 of the week so far. J-Mac Tucker and Gorham Miser here to bring you the action. Powered to you by Alienware, our title sponsor here for the Season 8 of the SPL. Our pros are playing on the top-of-the-line Aurora Ryzen 10 Edition gaming desktops. You can also pick yourself up a 25-inch gaming monitor at 240 Hz. That's 4 times the hertz I've ever gotten to play anything onto it. You can get all that action on smitegame.com/game or Alienware and use Smite code AW to pick yourself up a nice discount code onto that one. Once again, J-Mac Tucker, Gorham Miser joining me here for Leviathans versus the Valkyries. Leviathans, despite being 3-3 in their record, you look at that and you go, okay, middle-of-the-pack team, but they've not been playing middle-of-the-pack in their last couple of sets.
No, it's those last 2 losses, like, look, they made a roster swap and still pushed some of the top teams to the brink of it, right? I think that's really what we're kind of looking at as a team that, at least in my eyes for the Leviathans, are, if anything, getting more powerful by the day. I think the showcase that they had last week, it's just going to be a fun hint at what we might get to see today.
Yeah, I mean, what team makes a roster swap and then the very next day they go up against the #1 team in the SPL, aka the Bolts, and they push them to a 2-1 set so closely? You do take a look at the standings here. Like we said, 3-3, middle of the pack there, tied for 3rd with the Tartarus Titans, but I mean, it's no stranger here for Leviathans that they've always been kind of seen as one of the underdog teams, but they're looking to come out and get themselves a nice big win here over the Valkyries.
And that's the question of what the Valkyries are going to be able to do today, right? Yesterday they showcased a little bit of trouble in Game 1 versus the Bolts, and then a whole lot of, I'm just going to say it, a whole lot of nothing in Game number 2 versus the Bolts. Can they bring that energy from Game 1, and can they bring it against the Leviathans? The Bolts are the hardest team by standings measure to beat right now, so theoretically, that's the hardest matchup. This one's supposed to be a little bit closer. We'll see how much they're going to be able to capitalize on it, because there's a lot of key matchups in this, but for the Leviathans, the core 3v3 stayed the exact same, and that's always when they've been hardest to beat.
Yeah, all they've really done is kind of shift Zapman into the mentality forward onto there, and I think it's kind of a perfect fit. You shift Sharkor back over into his primary role of the solo lane, kind of where his real big dominance was, and then what do? You throw a Premier Hunter into the mix of Zapman, who gets to play almost the same playstyle he's gotten to play with his previous other teams. Sit back, get his farm, come into the late game, and strike big. But a lot of that is thanks to their support player, Rong Yu. Probably one of the bigger ones we need to highlight here is that Rong Yu didn't have to change his playstyle, and not only that, he's got one of the bigger god pools of some of the support players.
That's actually, I think, the biggest key, right? It's just a massive god pool that he brings to the table that makes things very difficult. And just in the 5 I'm seeing, I believe, like at the top from what he's played in Phase 2, but he loves picking up anything. He's got forced bans against him. You have to ban the Emoja. Sometimes you need to ban the Ymir. He loves going to this Fafnir, even if those are taken away from him. So he's got such an eclectic god pool that he's able to bring into the duo lane that is so difficult to deal with that it can be very oppressive. And it's because, again, you're required, like, good luck if you give Rong Yu Yamoja, right? Like, what do you get? You're not going to win that game. Same thing could pretty much be said for the Ymir, and that's the strength of this team. In almost every single ban phase against the Leviathans, Yamoja and Raijin take up 2 of the spots. You have 1 ban then to play with that is not an immediate target ban, and half the time it doesn't work out for you. If they're first pick, good luck, you're probably banning Tiamat against them. Otherwise, you're trying to figure out another, probably support pick that you're trying to take down. I think Rong Yu, who has he's got like a 75% kill participation for the team. Like, he is active on this roster. He brings everything that you need to a table in a support, and the Leviathans make it look good.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost kind of like when you're playing against someone like Genetics is, how many bans do we need to throw at this guy? The problem is you kind of can't go for it, but we got the man himself ready to go onto the interview. Rong Yu from the Leviathans joining us onto this one. Rong Yu, going into, kind of your roster change, you swap your core back over into the solo lane. How is this kind of bringing Zapman into your duo lane, how does that changed up or kind of shifted y'all's dynamic?
Well, first of all, is the language. English, I gotta speak English all the time with Zapman, but I really found funny laning with Zapman, or like in general. The environment he brings, I don't know, it's very good, it's healthy. I like Zapman on the team, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point you brought up there. The language barrier, I think that's something everybody was kind of wondering. You have this native Spanish-speaking team, and then you bring Zapman into it. How has he kind of adapted with this language barrier jumping in?
Okay, so basically, I speak with Zapman English in the lane, but when I leave, I start talking Spanish with my teammates. And for example, if the jungle is missing or something, we try to say it in English for him. Or in team fights, we try to communicate in English, so Zapman can, follow up or listen up. But I think Zapman understands some words in Spanish or some calls that we kind of try to say, and it's fun. I don't know.
And coming into our matchup for today against the Valkyries specifically, how confident are you guys in your play coming up against them?
I think we're pretty confident. Like the past week, we were like just starting the new roster. Now with a little bit of more practice, I think we'll be fine, I think.
Well, Rong Yu, thank you for your time. Good luck in your game today.
Thank you.
Well, it seems like it's a nice little fit in there for Zapman. Like how he mentioned, when I'm with them, we speak English as clearly as we can to him, get as much communication onto it, but then as soon as they leave, it's all just back to the norm for them.
I like the idea that it's a masterclass in Spanish for Zap, right? Like at this point, like you're learning, and maybe the best environment, which is everyone around you. Like sometimes you're just not going to know what's going on, and so you're going to have to catch up really fast. Which, I mean, look, my German teacher learned the exact same way. She just lived in Germany, didn't know the language. So maybe Zap, soon enough, like look, by the end of the year, sticking with the Leviathans team, it's going to be fluent.
Yeah, but on to the flip side
fluent
of
enough.
it. Oh, as fluent as you can
as,
be.
as fluent as you need to be for a Smite game. Let's say that.
That's fair on now. But on to the flip side, it's not all going to be easy for them. They've got a veteran player and a veteran dual lane to go up against, specifically Raffer in that support role. We've been seeing a lot of flexibility out of him recently, too. It seems that these supports have, in this most recent season of Smite, and probably its most recent phase, have really expanded that god pool beyond the 2 or 3 that were just top. We're seeing Constant Terras, Fafnir, and Ymir are the big ones, but Raffer still has a continuously expanding god pool. We even see Kuzumbo kind of fought between him and Neil Maas, who really likes to go for those kinds of picks.
Yeah, Raffer has been all over the place with them. I mean, like you said, he's been playing the Terra a lot more recently as well, and pretty successfully, at least as far as successfully as the Valkyries have been able to be as of late. But he is never the premier, this is who we have to pick for. There's a lot of, like you said, we've seen the Emojas, we've seen the Gebs, we've seen variety coming down from Raffer, and he plays consistently enough for this roster. The problems always tend to be where the 5v5 groupings come through, and I think a lot of that pressure will fall onto Raffer, right? Not just your setup, but here, your Khepri ults, your setups with your Mojas, where your Reverse Rebukes are. So every god he brings in is essential for their victory, because he has to be absolutely on point to make sure that the rest of the team is comfortable. The setup for Zeros or Johnny is there. So I think there's a lot of weight here for Raffer to show up and at least match or try to what Rong Hu is bringing, because we know from the consistency we've seen out of Leviathans, Rong Hu is going to be a very devastating support to go up against. Raffer needs to step up for this one to make this an even match.
Yeah, I think going into picks and bans when we get that, because these two supports have such a vastly expanding god pool at this point, we mentioned that Rong Hu just can't have Umoja. I mean, outside of that, how many adjustments in those picks and bans do we see to target out these supports, or do we just say, okay, ban the Umoja, maybe ban one other, and just let the rest of the map reign free?
I feel like, so if assuming that the Valkyries have done their homework, their bans are probably, like you said, Umoja, Raijin, their second pick this time around. So Tiamat is my assumption that is going to be their top 3, because those are the 2 most banned gods against the Leviathans, and the one god I really, really don't want Shinto to have, although that list goes on for quite a while. Whereas when you're playing against the Valkyries, I mean, we've got Neath bans that come through, because that Zeros is someone like that. Loki, Gilgamesh, the Kalis. Sometimes you'll see Sol, although she's fallen a little bit more by the wayside. So I think the fact that the Valkyries haven't really found a style that fits them is simultaneously helpful, because what do you ban? We ban out Johnny, that's about it. But also meaningless, because it hasn't really been able to help them find wins outside of that Scarab set.
And speaking on to Johnny, we did get to see in his last game, they finally let Loki through. Loki has been probably the most banned god. I mean, obviously, you could pull the numbers onto that one. We'll see it later on. But Loki feels like he's the most banned god against the Valkyries.
Yep.
They finally let the Loki through yesterday, but they couldn't find that level of success that they needed. Now, granted, it is against the Bolts, the #1 seed in the
it's not an easy matchup
in the league right now. It's their hardest match that they got to go against. But maybe we start seeing teams let this Loki through see, is it really worth it? And maybe we'll see that here in the picks and bans for game #1. Leviathans and Valkyries. We're going to say this probably for every Valkyrie set ever. This is an important set for them. They need to show more signs of life than they have in some of the other games. They've gotten their first win. That was step #1.
Yeah.
But it was against the Scarabs, who had just come off of a lot of roster shakeups, not the most devastating of rosters to go against. But in the last couple of sets we've seen them, they have been looking better. Now they're just looking for that silver lining.
Yeah, and the question marks are going to be, like you said, where can they find those wins, right? It's how far ahead. Like the Bolts, it was bottom versus the top. It is a very, very difficult matchup for them. Leviathans is a closer matchup, but I don't know if this one's going to be, by any metrics, easier for them. So a lot of pressure on the Valkyries to step up versus, again, playing like the Scarabs, maybe the Warriors, even the Titans would give them a lot of trouble. I think right now, this is one that it's a large scope for them. And so, J-Mac, I'm excited just to see how they adjust to the Leviathans, especially because they know, theoretically, with Zap coming in, and as was mentioned in the interview, that language barrier maybe being a place you can kind of drive a divot through is something that they could put some pressure on.
Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the bans against Leviathans, bans against Valkyries, it's pretty evenly spread for the Leviathans there. You see the Raijin, Umoja, and Tiamat kind of even there around the 60-50. You look on the flip side for the Valkyries, 85% of the games that they play, there is a Loki ban against them.
Yep.
And then the next highest one is 42, which is a meta ban here on the Gilgamesh. So really, that has been every team's primary ban against Johnny specifically. Ban the Loki. Leviathans, they do that homework. They say, you know what? Don't let Johnny be comfortable. Ban the Loki away, and they do that just so here in the first phase.
And that's the thing. You go back to phase 1 of the season, and while Loki was available and kind of popping off at the very beginning, if Johnny had Loki, that was a win for the Valkyries. Like, almost guaranteed that they'd get at least the game right there. But the problem was teams caught on to that very fast. They said, hey, they won that. Let's not do that again, and started banning it to the point where now it's a struggle to find a good jungle pick here for the Valkyries. It's a struggle to really, again, coalesce into the 5v5, which is where the Leviathans have been the strongest. And it makes me a little more worried here. I'm actually even surprised, maybe not so much, Osiris has been on the rise here, but like the Raigen's still open. There's so many mid laners open that I just, like I said earlier, do not want Shinto to be on. And I think this is something that you almost have to do, is strip it as far as possible. Like it's not even about getting Xeros comfortable. It is all about making Shinto as uncomfortable as you can. But I still don't know that that's possible.
Look, now you said Osiris is on the rise, but yesterday's first set, 3 games Osiris locked for jungle, 3 losses for Osiris jungle. Maybe the Valkyrie or maybe the Leviathans here can find some success onto it if they even elect to take it into the jungle. There is still flexibility for that solo lane. With this Terra locked in onto the flip side, I can only imagine that's going to be going in the hands of Raffer. It's one of his most recently most played gods. You know, we had, like we said, a long god list that this player has gone through, but Raffer has been really shaking up towards that Terra a lot more. Raijin going into the mid lane, but that left open the Morgan Le Fay because Tiamat was banned away earlier on. You want to talk about gods that you don't want to see Shinto on, and that list is a mile long right now. This expands, I would say, even beyond some of the mages. I don't think I want to see him on Morgan Le Fay if what we've already seen out of players like Hurrywind or Venenu or Dardes have done on this god. I'm terrified what Shinto can do with it.
Now, this just goes back to, I want to say a little bit of what I was saying earlier, where, like, so Sun Wukong, Jingwei, those have been very consistent picks for the Valkyries all year, but everything that they have right now has been just kind of thrown onto the board, right? Like, it goes back to what I had said earlier, where it's just like, you've got these picks, and you put them together, it's a good team, it's a good draft, but they haven't been playing them the same way that we see some of these other teams going to quote-unquote signature picks for them, which is beneficial, but it does make me worried because after those picks that I just highlighted, like Raigen's one of those where it's just like, yeah, we pick him up occasionally. This feels more like we needed a 4th ban against the Leviathans, then Xeros is going to look great on it. I think Xeros will do fine. Raijin, look, he's Raijin. He's going to be able to do all his damage from far away. He'll be fine. But at the same time, now you've got a Fafnir who's going to be able to control you, and Osiris who's going to be able to control you, and Morgan Le Fay whose damage is going to be obnoxious. It feels like this is going to be a place for the Valkyries to have some troubles in mid.
Serket locked in here for Johnny just before the final ban phase goes through, and before we have seen some Serket support out of players like Inbound, but most recently Johnny has kind of started straying over towards this Serket a little bit more often, and I think, you know, Agro may have put it best in the first set that we did get to see is he's shifting up how he's facilitating the map here. He's changing the dynamic of how it's played. Normally, he tries to be the hard carry for the team, but with the Serket, especially the last time that we saw him play it, he's allowing other players on his team to get those kills. He's trying to really bolster other players on the map.
Now, what was it? It was the, hey, you've been trying to carry this the entire time. That's obviously not been working for it. Let's see where we can go with it. But the problem really is just that, again, it's how they coalesce. Like this Serket yesterday in the very beginning looked all right. The times they've looked best, I'm actually really happy they locked this in, was when they had a Neath in mid and they threw whatever they could to Emilito over on the side. But with Raijin locked in, I do not think you're giving Emilito Raijin.
Give it to him.
And giving Zero's Neath.
Give it to him. Just do it. Why not?
I mean,
what do you got to lose? Another game? Just go for it. Why not? Although I doubt we're going to see the Raijin go into the long lane there. Very likely it's going over to Zeros into the mid lane. But pairing up against this Neath is a Heimdall on the flip end with a Fafnir coupled onto it. A very punishable dual lane. You throw that backflip out. Now, backflip, much faster than it used to be. Still very predictable where that ability is going to go. All it takes is one nice hammer or even just ult in on the Heimdall to really punish the Neath in that sense. And then to round out the draft, kind of this rise of the Guan Yu as of most recently. He was kind of big for a while, and then he fell off, got a little quiet, but now we're seeing him resurge here in these most recent weeks.
You know, I'm actually excited to watch how the Valkyries are going to play this. Again, the Neath ults, that CC being available anywhere on the map will make it easier, theoretically, then for Johnny to get some setup. Raijin damage follow-up is going to be there consistently. Like, for a quote-unquote 3-on-3 in mid, it's always going to be a 4-on-3. Anytime that ult is available for Emilito, assuming he's going to be the one who's playing it, it's going to make things a lot more devastating for the Leviathans in mid, but it also sets up really easy ganks in solo and duo. So I think there's a lot of opportunities that are open for the Valkyries here. It's just, can they get the edge up before the Valkyries hit their stride? Once they hit, 15 minutes, it's been closing a little bit closer and closer every time they play it. It's like, then they're going to be a lot more menacing to handle because it's going to be a good 5-on-5, their group up, which has always been incredibly strong for them. But I like the Valkyrie setup. I think in the first 10 minutes, they could really change the pace of the game.
And do you think that they now, with this Neath locked in for them, now they have that global presence with that ult, do you think they shift that dynamic more towards the mid lane, try and get Zeros up on this Raijin? Like you said,
yeah.
It's +1 no matter where you go on the map. Unless you come into the duo lane, then it's still just that normal matchup onto it. So do you think they start pushing that advantage towards that mid, or do you try and get Ducky pushed ahead on this Guan Yu?
I think a little bit of both. I think we're going to see the ults go towards mid. I think it's all focused on Raijin and getting Zeros a little further ahead. But I do think when I look at this team, Serket, Terra, and honestly to the extent Neath are really more setup machines. The Raijin's damage and Guan Yu in the front line are going to be the real duo, I think, getting things done, whether they're finding the kills, whether it's just dealing damage for somebody else to get it. They're going to be the kind of powerhouses that are setting everything up, while as everybody else is just the CC. They're the machines keeping everything running.
Well, we kind of just grazed past the Cucullin because everything else was just...
We've seen Cucullin. He's been
about to
played.
say, everything's been a little bit more interesting onto the flip side. Seeing, Guan Yu, seeing the Neath, which this is really one of the only teams playing Neath, specifically Zeros and a little bit of Emilitu. But Cucullin up against Guan Yu, a nice little matchup for him. Some anti-heal built into the kit. Tainted Steel has kind of been a popular pickup with him as well.
And this is also, I don't want to, Hardcore is a great mechanical player, showcased by the fact that he was one of the best solo laners last year into one of the strongest carries we saw for the first half of this year. But I will say, this has felt like a little bit of a crutch pick. The last few games that he's been playing, it's been the Cucullin. That's where he's been going for the solo lane. I think he still has the variety and still has that flexibility, but it's definitely felt like this is home base. This is good for us. Like you said, it still has a pretty decent matchup here, and I think he's going to be able to bully the lane and bully the carries late game as well as we're used to seeing. But I am wondering now if in that second phase, you get rid of a Fenrir, get rid of the Cupid, if maybe you drop both of those off, and instead if you had banned like a Cucullin and maybe not an Arthur since we haven't seen him go for that, but just some of the more solo lane centric picks, if it would maybe make that side of the map a little easier for Ducky.
Yeah, I think talking about how much variety we've seen out of the supports, kind of seeing Hardcore, which has been one of the more variable solo laners with his picks in the past, maybe, like you said, a little bit more of a crutch going back to Cucullin, trying to hit his stride onto it, or maybe it's just a case of you can never go wrong with a Cucullin. He just feels like a great natural pick into the solo lane. He's very safe. I mean, he's got the Rage Transformation, get an extra set of abilities onto it. It feels you can't go wrong with him, but I think you might be onto something with it. It's just a safe pick for him. It's just okay, let me get warmed up on this Cucullin.
It's also worth saying, the Leviathans, their drafting sense has always been, hey, this is what I'm going to play, and if it's open, I'm just going to lock it in. Cucullin probably falls under that umbrella as well.
Well, with that one, we're going to throw it over to the casters for Game 1 of the Leviathans and the Valkyries. Aggro, Mifflin, bring us the action.
Thank you, J-Mac and Gore. That's right, Aggro and Mifflin here to bring you the Leviathans up against the Valhalla Valkyries in a set that, despite the recent success for the Leviathans in terms of how good they've looked after the roster swap, have yet to find the set win column. Looking to do that here today up against the Valkyries, who Mifflin maybe actually have a semblance of momentum coming off their win last week over the Scarabs.
Yeah, well, asterisk on that win. I'm not going to devalue any SPL game, but there was a little bit of
there were some circumstances.
There's some roster shakeups there, but I think maybe more so interesting was the Valkyries set yesterday. I feel like they really did come out to play. They were showing a lot of life on the field, so I'm going to give a lot more credence to that. And I will say, they're looking very improved.
Johnny in a bit of trouble, but does have the ambush. I was worried he had the Cobra's Kiss and had just sealed his fate by securing those right side mid harpies, but instead just secures them. and is able to get away, as Serket tends to do. This is a pick, Myth, that I feel like just ebbs and flows throughout the SPL meta constantly. As Ducky's in some trouble, one more auto will do it, and it's first blood for Yarkor. Back on the signature Cucullin, and it's like he never left.
Man, Yark the Shark, he's good wherever you put him, it seems like. And that is a lane matchup, Cucullin into Guan Yu. That is pretty volatile for the first 5 or so levels. You can expect solo kills to happen, generally in favor of the Cucullin, but all you have to do, if you're Guan Yu in this match, is make it to level 5, get that ultimate available to you, and all of a sudden, all that risk evaporates.
Have the heal, and of course, once you get that cavalry charge online, definitely a lot more mobility and safety for that pick. And alongside that Guan Yu, the Serket that I was trying to talk about before Yarkor so rudely interrupted me, overall, I think you look at the Serket, the Guan, the Terra, a lot of CC, a good amount of frontline, some really good sustain. I think this is a good team fighting composition here for the Valks.
Yeah, what did you say about Terra Ultimate? It's the god of get to level 16, press 4, and win the game.
Yeah,
Earthen Fury is incredibly strong, and they've got good tools to proc that ultimate onto enemies, or even as a counter pick into the Leviathans draft. Shinto, with that dot damage on his third ability, is always going to proc that heal. Even Zapman with a Galarhorn proc that heal as well. So I like this Valkyries draft, but as you said, it's a team fight draft, and not often I want to take a team fight late game up against the Leviathans.
Yeah, this Leviathans team so comfortable in those moments, but what they've drafted is a little bit more early game centric, I would argue. I mean, you've got this Cucullin Osiris right side of the map. Those guys aren't really waiting for late game.
But they don't fall off necessarily either. There's still going to be a great frontline engagement for your team, and there's going to be a bit of a baton pass at about the 15-minute mark where Yarkor and Panzam are going to be setting the pace, but 15 minutes in, and because of the nature of the Leviathans and how they like to play, Shinto likely going to be pretty close to level 20 at that point because Panatom refuses to take his farm. I think a Morgan Le Fay around that point should be able to succeed pretty well in this Valhalla Valkyries draft. The only question mark being Emilito on this Neath. That could pose some issues for the Morgan Le Fay, and Ducky on this Guan Yu. That's just a lot of dive potential for the Valkyries.
Guaranteed damage on their end for sure. And even though Shinto normally gets a lot of farm, might not be able to stay super far ahead of Zeros because of the Benevolence pickup from him. But I have to break that down in a moment, as Panatom is lurking on this left-hand side. Surprisingly enough, doesn't feel like Raffer and Emilito were far enough up the lane. It felt like they might have been able to loop around, but Panatom takes the back instead. So it is Benevolence in the mid lane for Zeros. He tried it, and I quote, for science yesterday, and it turns out it felt pretty good for him. How do you feel about Benevolence here in the mid lane?
You know, I've actually had the chance to talk to a couple of the SPL mid laners, and I think it was Ven as a direct quote here. Gold spooling good?
Yeah.
And generally that has been the trend anytime any item's giving you additional gold over time. I mean, remember back to Midas Foods or the OG Sentinels gift. It's just a great way to farm up, especially with mid laners playing as they have been recently, a little bit more so inside the lane, just waiting until that late game. This item just brings that late game a little bit more quickly.
Definitely trades off a little bit of your early power, but not enough
fighting
to offset the gold. Yeah, if you're not fighting, then who cares? You know, you don't have to worry about it too much. And that, I think it says a lot about how good Benevolence is when Vamp Shroud is arguably the best starter in the game, and some players are still willing to go past without it in order to get that gold income. Not Shinto, though. He's locking in that Vamp Shroud, and I think maybe what the Valkyries have on their side of the map might be influencing that quite a bit.
Look, Shinto knows he doesn't need the Benevolence. Panatom is Shinto's Benevolence,
right.
Man. He's just not going to take his farm. This dude's soloing a red buff. That is a cardinal sin back when I was jungling. If my mid laner ever did that, I was complaining and my comm shut down for that entirety of the set.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I'm sure Delta Marine 72, the poor soul that he is, had to hear it once or twice.
No, he learned his lesson. He did it once, and that's it.
That's it. And Soul clears red so well by herself. That's the crazy thing, is that every game he could have been doing it if he wanted to. He just didn't really want to. With that first blood under Leviathan's belt, they're up about 1,000 gold, and that isn't accounting for the entire first blood bounty, which means that Leviathan's may be getting the better end of some of this neutral farm through the first 5.5 minutes. But as we covered, that seems to be the game plan for the Valhalla Valkyries, getting to the later stages, not necessarily fighting a whole lot early on. Leviathan's going to try and take advantage of that by securing this Greater Scorpion. Johnny going for this Jotun's Wrath right off the bat. A little bit damage-centric, and sometimes we see Serket players, even from minute one, go a little bit more hybrid. I'm a big fan of the Jotun's first here for Johnny.
Yeah, I think it gives you such a strong early game, and it still leaves you available to go towards that Bruiser route, where you can immediately go into just about anything you want. You can go towards the Void Shield if he's worried about that, but that CDR is so important.
Ooh, looking for Yarkor, and here comes a Neath ultimate as well. It will get blocked somewhere along the way. I think that was Wrong You who ate the World Weaver, and now Johnny needed that damage in CC, and he's not getting it. Shinto on the way, and Shinto cleans it up. Johnny falls for the second kill for the Leviathans, and that was a great play. I don't know if Wrong You intentionally got in the way or not, but one way or another, Emilito's ultimate did not hit home.
Look, Wrong You is one of the best who have ever done it. He's an incredibly talented support player. If he did that intentionally, he goes up like 5 tiers in my mind globally across the entirety of SMITE. It's so hard to block Neath ultimates across lanes, but that is just an unfortunate situation for Johnny where thin margins cost him that kill and his own life, and maybe he is wishing he went a little bit more tanky inside the build now.
Well, hey, he's doing a lot of calculus in order to try and decide if I can kill this guy, and when Neath ultimate is all of a sudden out of the equation, that's going to change your math quite a bit. Jump in. I'm surprised alongside you, Mifflin, that Panatom sees ambush get used, and they decide not to go for Johnny, especially knowing his ultimate is down. But Panatom does not have Lord of the Afterlife either, so decides to play it a little bit safe around that fight.
I got to think they just didn't see him. They're setting up the ambush there. They stood there for another 10 seconds afterward, just likely weren't quite in range. The Fog of War blocks their vision, but now it's the Valhalla Valkyries establishing dominance around these neutral objectives because the Leviathans were just looking for a gank that never came.
And never actually materialized. Zeros, again, will be a player to watch on those net worth charts on the left-hand side. He's a little bit below Shinto right now, with Shinto getting that last kill, but that takes some time. But, you know, Benevolence is better over a longer period of time, so I'd expect him to stay, even if this game starts going the Leviathan's way. And that's what we've seen, even in yesterday's set, whenever Zeros and the rest of the Valkyries were behind, Zeros was not behind in gold because of the Benevolence start.
Yeah, if you want any indicator of how strong Benevolence is right now, it's about a level and a half, nearly 2 levels in favor of Shinto, and somehow Zeros is remaining within 5 to 6 GPM at all times. He just has to sit inside of his tower, and as you said, wait it out. Eventually he's going to get that value.
All right, here we go again. Yarkor once again on the receiving end. This time World Weaver will land. The CC chain is good, but transform right on time for Yarkor. Ducky needs a few more autos. Talu was so interrupted, and Yarkor walking free. Johnny does have the blink, but put in combat by Shinto. And I've seen this story before, Johnny being chased down by Shinto after a failed gank. But this time, the ending's a little bit different. M. Night Shyamalan in this, a little twist, and he actually ends up getting away.
He does. Just wasn't quite able to find all of his abilities was Shinto. The Dragonflight, not used, immediately goes into the ultimate. And, well, Johnny, with no dot applied to him, could just use that blink to escape out of that situation. But at the end of the day, it's still Leviathan setting the pace, controlling the neutral objectives, controlling all the gold on the map. It's only 2 kills so far, but also 2,000 gold across the entirety of it. And the Valhalla Valkyries, they're on the back foot. It's not awful. They're not bleeding out by any stretch of the imagination, but we haven't seen them go for too many proactive plays, barring Johnny trying to gank this soul laner.
And Emilito's been active with that ultimate at the very least, and that's got to be one of my #1 pet peeves, is when you have a Neath in your team and the ultimate's
that should never
always
be filled.
Yeah, you should be firing that thing at will as soon as it comes up. And so far, Emilito's done that. 2 ultimates in 9 minutes, neither resulting in a kill, but not for lack of trying, and that's all you can really ask.
It is interesting that Emilito has elected to go for this bow build as well. Generally, Neath is a god that benefits a lot from Transcendence Bluestone, especially considering the majority of what Emilito is doing for his team right now is just that ultimate. So you'd think a little bit of additional power, some CDR, would make him have some more impact on the map, but instead, again, has his eyes on that late game teamfight. Another indicator that the Valhalla Valkyries are within the realm of acceptable losses.
Dive is on to Ducky, and he's been CC'd. Nice double stun coming from the ultimate, but Panatom, it's just a matter of time until that tether stuns, and Yarkor gets credit as the tier 1 tower falls on that right-hand side. Obviously a bit of a tech issue there, so apologies for that. But it's a good start so far for the Leviathans, up 3-0. Immediately, Panatom and Yarkor dominating the right side, as you would expect from a Cucullin Osiris sort of composition.
But the Valkyries, with this slower pace, I know we've already talked about it, it's them looking for that late-game team fight. That's exactly what they want. But there comes a point in the match where you've waited a little bit too long, where you've given up a little bit too much. And with this tower going down, with a neutral objective spawning, and we're starting to hit those power spikes on the side of the Leviathans, where I'm sure the second we come out of this pause, we're going to be looking at a Gold Fury fight very soon. I feel like the Valkyries might be a little bit too patient this time around.
I mean, they're down 3,011 minutes, which is not impossible, especially when you have better tools come late game, which I would argue they do, but certainly not ideal. As Shinto now level 13 in comparison to where Zeros is at level 11, though Zeros has finished at least 2 items there with that Benevolence, a little bit of help coming from that item. Again, apologies for a little bit of the spectator issues. We're working on it as soon as we can. But overall, I mean, you know, when you're talking about how you want a team to play differently, you know, we're like, all right, we want Johnny to be more active on the map. He's been active on the map. He's tried to gank twice.
Solo.
Has that been the problem? Has it been target selection?
I think he would have a little bit more success trying to gank out potentially this duo lane. I mean, Zapman sure playing one of the safer gods inside a Heimdall, but that's not just because Circuit has a bad matchup. She's got a great matchup in a Heimdall. Very difficult to use that Bifrost to escape. Could at least be burning those beads. We know that even if Bifrost is used, the dot damage from Circuit is going to apply, and Emilito doesn't have to use his own ultimate to engage the fight. He can use it to end an engagement as well. So there are other options on the map. 12 minutes in, multiple attempts towards ganking Yarkor, none successful so far. Let's try somewhere else.
You can't try now. I mean, he's up to level 14. He's 3 levels above Johnny. Make that 2 levels above Ducky. You're not messing with him anytime soon. In fact, it's Ducky on the run immediately upon seeing Yarkor, who has picked up a Sunder now that he's hit level 12. No blink for him, Sunder instead.
That is going to hurt his ability to engage these fights a bit, as Raffer caught out inside the mid lane. Rongyu, though, doesn't really care too much. Instead, it's just a little bit of poke here.
A little bit of poke, and Yarkor has rotated over, and I think that might signal the beginning of a Gold Fury pull, as you were alluding to just a moment ago. To the Gold Fury go the Leviathans. And Valhalla Valkyries are not in a great place to defend. Emilito all the way back behind his purple, and this Gold Fury is a foregone conclusion for the Order side. That pushes their lead up to almost 5,000 gold in 13 minutes.
And if you remember last season, we'd say 5,000 gold down 15 minutes in was the Sanguine lead. Well, that's not exactly what's happening this time around. The Sanguine lead has inversed itself, and it's the Leviathans finding themselves very comfortably in the gold and XP department, advanced on their opposition. Valhalla Valkyries got caught out inside a mid. Yarkor stops the rotation from Zeros, legitimately blocks Ducky and Johnny as well just by positioning on that upper left-hand side of the jungle. Unfortunate for him, and that's with him not going for an engaged tool, with Blink not being selected. That's exactly how Yarkor has to play. He just has to put his body there from the initial, and that's exactly what he does.
Panatom's going to find Raffer, but doesn't want to concern himself with the support. Instead, looking for Emilito. Blink is already down for Panatom, but Rongyu is going to be able to keep this fight going. Beads are there from Emil and Aegis, and Panatom is not deterred. He's going to keep on going. Earth and Fury, who cares? I'm going to cut him down anyways. Now 4 for the Leviathans, but a Zapman in trouble. Bifrost will not go off in time, and Johnny puts the Valkyries on the board 14 minutes in.
That's what I'm talking about, man. Johnny could have been doing that 7 minutes ago to Zapman, who now without his beads is even more susceptible to it on the respawn. ADCs both fall here, but Valhalla Valkyries, I'd argue, get the better end of it. I mean, anytime they're able to find something inside of these engagements when you're at this kind of deficit is a huge boon for the Chaos team.
Absolutely, getting some confidence on their side as well at the exact same time. As you taking a look at Johnny's build, goes power right away, and then pure defense right after the fact. Pridwin is his next option, so he caps his CDR 2 items in, and is now going to have to build some protections in order to make that Pridwin shield actually worth it.
Yeah, I guess Johnny thinks he's going to be the initiator for the majority of these fights. He wants to be one of the first ones in, and then you can have the follow-up CC from Ducky, which is going to free up Raffer to play as backline protection, use that Earth and Fury a little bit more defensively, and all of a sudden Zeros and Emilito get so much more functional HP, effectively becoming somewhat bruisers inside of these fights if this Terra does get a couple more levels under her belt. I like this strategy from them, but as you said, Johnny is a long ways off until this Pridwin is finding its full value.
Maybe once he finishes off a Void Shield is what I would guess is Rongyu. Again, all over Emilito, who is relicless, coming to this engagement. Panatom and Zapman on the way as well. And we'll put some good damage back onto Zap, courtesy of the Oboe procs, but has to be careful and will have to concede his own purple buff. So Raffer and Emilito still looking for some damage on a Panatom, but I don't think they're going to be able to get a whole lot after the fact. This is not the fight for the Valkyries to end up chasing out. Rongyu's build, I was checking in on his relic. You know, what's he going to go at 12? He goes with the Cursed Onk, as expected, up against Terra. But look at what his second item is, Mifflin, a Gem of Isolation for the Fafnir.
Some HP, a little bit of damage, a super annoying passive. Normally we see when Fafnirs or just Guardians in general want to go for damage in that second slot, it's Spear of Desolation for the CDR, but instead Rongyu, I guess, trying to be a little bit annoying. I mean, Emilito having such a one-note escape inside a backflip means that anytime he applies that slow, likely going to be stuck to him for the long time.
And, of course, it procs off your Coerce. So when your Hunter, say, uses a Gallarhorn that's already slowing,
Yeesh.
if he's coerced, he gets the Gem of Isolation them at the exact same time. If you haven't tried out proc Fafnir and just using your Coerce all the time,
wait, stop.
Big recommend.
Dude,
it's
no.
real fun.
Now I can't play casuals for literally the next week just because you said that. Everyone's gonna run it.
But you are gonna pop people when you get coerced, like Soul Gem. Okay, your Fafnir, you build Soul Gem, E-Staff, Gem of Isolation, and you're just 2ing people, and they'll one-shot them for you. Soul Reaver, all of them. It's all good. Not for Zeros though, because he's dead before his jump even gets off. Panatom's able to claim his second. And now Raffer's on the run. Underneath the tower they go, and Shinto is in a bit of trouble pretty far forward, but Ducky gets here just a little bit too late. Shinto's able to reposition, and now Ducky without his ultimate is the focus for the Leviathan. Shinto gobbles him up with no problems whatsoever, as the Valkyries now showing up in force, but it feels like it's too little too late, a futile effort in order to try and get some kills on their side. Johnny on the run, Raffer down to 1 HP before Shinto gets the job done, and Dragonflight away. Be gone, Need. I don't want you anywhere near me. And that's a clean 4-for-0 for the Leviathans.
Aggro, I gotta say it, man.
Yeah.
I gotta say it. It's unreactable CC. What's Emilito gonna do about that? He's just assuming that the Dragonflight had already been used inside the engagement, steps up to try and barrel stuff because he's the Hunter, and that's what Hunters do when they're looking at anyone that isn't another Hunter or a Hunter from behind. They're like, well, I don't want to miss my autos.
This is a bit risky though, Mifflin. Yarkor's in trouble. Johnny blinks in, and he gets hammer stunned on the firewall. Give me a break. Panatom will end up going down to the Fire Giant. Gore can update the Fire Giant's KDA.
0.00065 now.
There you go. Now it's in a better spot as the Fire Giant claims 1 and is now tied with the Valkyries for kills in this match.
You didn't have to do it like that. You could have phrased that any other way.
It is simply a fact that I am stating.
You don't have to be so mean to the Valkyries, dude.
It's not mean. I'm just stating a fact.
Facts can be mean. That's just the truth.
I suppose that's true.
All right. So the Valhalla Valkyries now tied with the Fire Giant for kills, 18.5 minutes. Well, it's just the facts.
That is true. Well said.
All right. Can I do my thing now?
Yeah, by all means, yeah.
Yeah, so now we get to talk about the Siege. It's a little bit weaker here for the Leviathans because Panatom gets PvE'd inside of that Fire Giant, but just fine. He's respawning in 1 second, which means it's all about these towers that are left standing for the Valkyries, and there are plenty of them. 4 standing between the Leviathans and the exposed birds of the Valhalla Valkyries. I don't think I see the Valkyries stepping up to any of these towers. Potentially the Phoenix, that's really where they can dig in their heels, utilize that AoE control from IRAF, or utilize that damage from Zeros. But the engage factor from the Valkyries, their ability to dive, has been strong from conception. We're just evaluating the draft, but play on field has not quite been there. Johnny and Ducky have not been on the same page. Shinto has been allowed to free cast inside of these fights. If the Valkyries want to win on this defense, it's pretty binary in my mind. Deal with Shinto or lose the game.
3-0-2 now for the mid laner for the Leviathans, and 4 items deep in the build. Certainly easier said than done at this point at where Shinto is. Can we talk real quick about how nasty that hammer from Ronky was off Johnny's blink to get him on the firewall and have the FG do a ton of damage for you all at the same time? Those feel the best, whenever you can CC someone into a Fire Giant knockup or right on the firewall and end up build your own Ganesh, but with a strictly better character, in fact.
You think Fafnir's just, I mean, like, yeah, he is, but
Yeah.
he's not, like, that much better.
Yeah.
He's still got defense shred, space control, additional protections for
Look,
your team.
I
Dude,
love
Ganesh has
Ganesh.
Ares too, but it's just better.
No, it's not, because Ares 2 gives you a ton of CCR and HP 5
Yeah,
now,
but,
which is,
but Ganesh 2 means your enemies can't use their abilities
right, and that is
at all.
That is very good. But here's the thing: is that Fafnir is like maybe the best guardian in the game at an SPL level.
Yep.
And Ganesh is maybe the second worst behind Yorm.
Behind Yorm.
Yeah.
There's got to be. You got
Or ahead of
Ganesh
Yorm,
over
excuse me.
Xingqian?
Yeah.
Wow, you actually.
Or no. Xingqian's above Ganesh.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Look, Ganesh is really fun, and I love playing. And anytime I have Dolson on my team, that's who I want him playing.
I can imagine him right now. Be quiet, be quiet. You can't speak.
Because he's really good at the god. If you can win any level game in ranked with Ganesh. That's not what I'm saying.
In ranked.
In ranked. But not in the SPL. You just get abused on that god. Whereas Fafnir does the abusing.
All right, fair enough. Fafnir is essentially a warrior in the Guardian role, but
Yeah.
now we've got it's been a couple of seconds. We can round up what's happened. Leviathans took every single tower.
Right, all those towers you talked about.
Yeah, and the Gold Fury.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
and the Draugr died, and the Pyromancer.
They're like 11k up.
Oh, and Johnny's dead as well.
Well, hold on.
Johnny is not dead. You're right. Good call.
He's
all
Circuit.
all the CDR, and he's Circuit. Yeah, Dragonflight not landing ends up being a pretty big deal there for
Dude, how you
Shinto.
missing Dragonflight? It's unreactable CC.
Well, it doesn't mean okay. I refuse to engage on this level with you. I'm trying to teach Dave that lesson, and I've got to follow my own advice when it comes to it. I was hoping that Rongyu would be building some more fun stuff in the support role, but instead he's gone back to defense, Spirit Robe, and now into probably a Sovereignty would be my guess right after the fact. But Gem of Isolation doing the job at this point. By the way, check out the net worth charts. You want to talk about how valuable Benevolence is?
Oh, that's good.
Otherwise,
For 2 more weeks.
Zeros would be down with everyone else. But as it stands, he's the third most gold in the game at level 19.
Yeah, 22 minutes in. Finally starting to get some value from it, but maybe had he gone for a more aggressive starter, could have utilized that aggression in the build.
Jump in from Rongyu. It's Yarkor who's right there behind him. A big knockup coming from the Kukulkan. And Emilito is on the run, eviscerated by the right side of the map because Panatom cleans up what Yarkor started. Now Yarkor tanks up the Phoenix, gives his Hunter an opportunity to get some shots in. Worth noting the fire is falling off, but the Leviathans, someone should tell them, because I don't think they know. They're still going as if they still had Fire Giant. Raffer dies without a second thought as the mid-Phoenix falls, and now the Leviathans have maybe noticed that they don't have that Fire Giant sustain on their side and have slowed the pace down. They crack 2, they get the base open, and they start walking back.
But the Valhalla Valkyries seem to be on the chase here. They know the Leviathans have split themselves on the map, but now the Valkyries doing largely the same thing. Fire Giant on the respawn. Leviathans gonna just go ahead and head back to base, knowing that with 2 dead on the side of the Valkyries, there's very low risk of the Valkyries going for the Hail Mary play of just starting Fire Giant itself. Look, man, the Leviathans are pretty primed here, and that's not the player. They're primed.
I was gonna ask
to win this game. I don't think the Valkyries in any world can send someone to defend this Fire Giant. Maybe you send in one of your weaker members inside of the team fight. So Johnny has been struggling in the team fight so far. You send him in and say, look, Johnny, try your best, steal the Fire Giant. If you steal it, you bought us 5 minutes. If you don't steal it, we're going to struggle on the team fight, but you're struggling anyway.
Yeah, not a whole lot that you can do on these Phoenixes, I feel like. It is a no contest on the Fire Giant here from the Valkyries. 24 minutes when the Leviathans claim their second one. And now they've got their choice. Which side lane Phoenix do they want to attack first? And they'll go right down the right-hand side, no wasting time, heading over to the left. But Emilito's backing when there's a wave right in front of him, so he does not push out that left side wave, which means that it should be a pretty easy transition here for Leviathans when necessary. Transformation from Rongyu, and he's the first one in on this right side of Phoenix. Johnny lurking in a good position in the back, and there's a good Terra ultimate coming from Raffer, and I just don't know if it's going to matter because Yarkor is unstoppable. 3-0-8 right now for the solo laner, and the backline for the Leviathans are free-casting. A double kill for Zapman. Shinto notches number 4, and that should do it for game number 1.
Well, hold on. The Leviathans like to kill everybody before they kill the Titan. That's been their winning condition. So all that we have to do is have Raffer run as far away as possible. They can't kill the Titan.
Oh, they can't kill the Titan. Well, Panatom's going to start working on him as the rest of the team is on the Titan duty. for
Well,
this
no
game.
way.
And they actually let Raffer live.
What?
Some mercy for once from the Atlantis Leviathans, though you wouldn't know it by the scoreboard. 15-1 here in game number 1. As expected for a team like the Leviathans.
That's the Leviathans are pretty high up in the seeding right now, and the Valkyries pretty low in the seeding right now. But
Sure.
I think that the Valkyries have shown improvements, enough so that the game should be more competitive than what we just saw. Instead, game 2, I want to see the Valkyries draft aggression through and through. It's the only phase of the game you play at every point, or in every match rather, is the early.
Sure.
Might as well try your best to control it from there. I want to see warriors in the jungle. Let's, I don't know, Johnny get like a Gilgamesh or something. Let's have this Raijin not build benevolence, instead Vamp Shroud, Conduit Gem, I don't care, Sands of Time. Jump on the Morgan Le Fay in the early game. If you let Morgan Le Fay just play until the late game, you got to play against a late game Morgan Le Fay. It's not so fun.
No, that's not a recipe for success. Look, we got the first step. More activity in the early game from the jungler.
Yep.
Now it's more activity in the early game for the jungler, not in solo lane, potentially. That's what we're looking for. We'll see if the Valkyries can turn it around in game 2. We'll be right back, and we'll bring it back to the desk to break it down.
just like the SMITE Pros, you can also pick up your own SMITE merch apparel over at shop.smiteproleague.com. You get some nice shirts. You can't get these ones anymore, but you can still get some nice SMITE Pro League apparel. Once again, over at shop.smiteproleague.com. You can get yourself some hoodies. You can get yourself some t-shirts with the nice SMITE Pro League jersey on there. I wish we had one that had the SMITE Beef logo on there. It'd be a perfect one onto it. Maybe that's something that we bring up to them, that they could go for that one, onto that one. But maybe later into the future on that one. Once again, shop.smiteproleague.com to get your Inside Apparel, our title merch sponsor here for the SPL. But unfortunately for the Valkyries, they're going to need to buy a little bit more than merch to get themselves a win here in game number 2.
Yeah, their onesies super comfy, but not winning as of right now, right? It's only getting them so far. Look, there's a lot of ways to describe that game, and a lot of eloquent ways, probably a lot of fun words I could use to describe it, but I'll just stop it as Fire Giant got the same amount of kills as the Valkyries.
Yeah, that's never a fun stat line to have
there
on that one for them. An unfortunate game for the Valkyries. It looked like they were trying to get a nice start up there. They started targeting solo lane, aiming for Yarkor, but one bad Neathel was I think all we needed to see onto where Yarkor, he gets first blood onto Ducky. Never a fun start for it. Then make a rotation over there again for it, and instantly the Neathel gets body blocked by Rongyu in the mid lane, and that fight is over.
So you remember how at the beginning of this I said, oh, maybe this Kukulkan's just like a crutch for hardcore. It doesn't matter if he's going to play like this. The way the entire team played. First off, that stun, by the way, like
sick.
We highlighted Rongyu at the beginning of it. That's why when you get stuns like that are the reason that you get highlight reels. It's just everybody on this team just played lights out, and I think you could see that not just the versatility in this team, but the fact that they will play, like I said, whatever it is you're going to give them. And if it's a powerful lineup like this, I mean, the least quote-unquote powerful god, or at least meta god on here is Heimdall for Zapman, and that's his favorite pick, or at least it's been his most picked god, I believe, of the last 2 years. So it makes sense that they're going back to it, and just being such a dominant force there, I think speaks wonders to them. I wouldn't be surprised if they let them here, if the Valkyries, who have opted, I believe, to go first pick in the next game, if they let them, the Leviathans will run the same draft and do the same thing.
Now, on the plus side for the Valkyries, Johnny maintaining his 100%, kill participation, still one of the highest kill participants for his team onto it. Unfortunately, their only kill was onto him. The only kill that they got the entire time. This Cirquet just never seemed to get the ball rolling as soon as they had the opportunity. They got a nice pick onto Zapman on his side, on their side of the map over by the red buff, but that was really the only fight that looked good for them. Outside of that, these team fights just looked so scattered for the Valkyries. It looked like they could never find their footing up against this team just because they had already lost by probably the 5-6 minute mark.
I can't tell if Zapman's focused or if he's being left out of a conversation. That looked like it looked a little sad there. But yeah, like I think that's the fun of this team, right? Like you can tell that they're all in their mindsets, but you get a game like that, J-Mac, and I will say we've seen a ton of games like that this year, realistically. Maybe not a ton. That might be over-exaggerating a little bit. But we've seen a good handful where one team just gets massively rolled over in game 1, and then game 2 is incredibly close, and then game 3 ends up going to that team that got steamrolled. We'll see if the Valkyries can provide that. We've seen teams like the Scarabs do it. I think Bolts have been on the receiving end of a stomp and still won a set, and that happened this phase. So there's still a lot of comeback potential for them. But like you said, the Cirquet wasn't really stepping up to what we wanted and were really expecting, and it just kind of felt disjointed. There was a certain point where the Leviathans grouped up, and it never really came back to the Valkyries from there. It all just kind of fell apart for them. And so this is going to be a very essential pick and bans for them, not just in can we get the things that are good for us, but can we also try to slow down the Leviathans enough that we can get the steam rolling for ourselves.
And maybe with this first pick, they can get something essential for them onto this draft. They had the second pick last time, and because of that one, they were able to go into the Raijin, they grabbed the Terra, so they got 2 big picks for 2 of their bigger players, but those 2 picks just weren't enough. I didn't feel like the Neath had a lot of impact over there into the dual lane. We didn't see a whole lot of these cross-map snipes, and it felt like it was because the one very first attempt that Zeros had made from it got body blocked halfway down the trail. Yeah. I'm going to call it unintentional, but Ron used every day going to say, oh yeah, no, I did that on purpose. I saw that he was ulting, so I walked in front. No, he was halfway across the map and he blocked that.
Halfway across the map, we watched the replay of it. I think it might have been in that reel. He was not looking at Neath. Like, he wasn't, like, he was walking sideways, staring somewhere else. Either way, calculated or not, cool save. And I think it's going to be something that's worthwhile for them. Again, holding up to that regard, like the Valkyries, this is where things get rough to me. Because when you're in pick and ban, and you say, here are the top 2 mages in the league, Tiamat and Morgan Le Fay. And you know for a fact that you don't have to ban Tiamat here if you're the Valkyries, or sorry, if you're the Leviathans, because they're 0-4. The Valkyries picked it up yesterday against the Bolts. That tacked on another loss. They have not won with that god. They were one of the first teams to pick them as well. And so it feels like it's just so difficult if you're the Valkyries, because first pick, all that glory, all of the what is the word for flair, I guess, is where I'm going with it. You could see me chat. I was flailing my arms around trying to get a word out of JMac there, and of course, I still don't know the one I wanted to. Flair's a good one.
All the pizzazz.
Pizzazz. That's exactly it. I wanted pizzazz. All the pizzazz of being first pick. It doesn't work if the first pick is going to be something you lose on.
And maybe it's just unfortunate circumstance for the Valkyries onto, overall this entire year they haven't had the best performances. And like you said, have had basically no success on the Tiamat, but you have to pick it up here. It's not.
I'm not letting Shinto have it. You
can't just give it to them. Maybe in their ban phase they trade out the Odin for it in this case instead, but they went for the Odin. You have to ban the emoji against Rongyu. There's no way that you let Rongyu get the emoji because you're essentially just giving up your game at that point. So they've decided to ban the Morgan Le Fay. Do you think instead of banning the Morgan, they ban Tiamat in that place? Like,
honestly, I think if they didn't ban the Morgan Le Fay, I think they ban Tiamat there. Like, I feel like it's one of those, like, what is going to be the, like, most devastating, like, soul-crushing things that could happen to us. And it's Shinto getting a good pick. And that's where, that's where Raijin comes into this equation. Hey, guess what? It's a good pick for Shinto. It's been treating him really well. If I can get the numbers pulled up fast enough, I'll even be able to tell you how not only how often they've been able to pick it, which has been only about 30% of the time, but guess what? They're 4-0 on that. And so that is a very massive pickup for them because it has been one of the go-tos. I mean, pretty much all year, and this is just in Phase 2 that he's 4-0 on it. So it's something that, admittedly, again, you're just picking your poison. Which one do you want to deal with? And you know that that's going to be a good mid 3v3. You know that Panatom, assuming he's able to get the Osiris, which, by the way, first pick last game. Oh, no, sorry, banned out. I was like, where is he? Is something that is going to get taken away. So maybe going for some setup for him. But either way, 9 times out of 10, always let me set up Raijin. That's easy.
But again, they give up this Fafnir over for Rongyu, performed on it so well in Game 1. It's become almost a cardinal sin here amongst the SPL is this player did really good on this god, but they weren't the problem. There's no way they were the problem. Let him have it again. We saw it with a Tiamat 3 games in a set yesterday. Now we're seeing it here with the Fafnir. As much as I love this Terra, I love Terra. She's a great pick. She has a ton of CC, has some decent healing into her kit as well. Really great control. But you cannot just let Rongyu have another game on Fafnir after the performance he had in game number 1.
He's been having a lot more than just game number 1.
Well,
I think this is like he's batting like a 50%. Like in Phase 2, half of his games have been on Fafnir, and guess what? They've been doing a whole lot of winning. And granted, last week again was a little bit of a more bumpier road, but it was a very difficult road to try and overcome. So, looking at the Leviathans, based on how they just played, you swapped out Heimdall for Rom as of right now. I guess now you also have the Raijin instead of the Morgan Le Fay. It feels really solid for them, this top 3, and I'm going to give it a lot of credence. I think overall, when you see Fenrir, you see Tiamat on one team, you're supposed to lean towards the Valkyries because of the top 2. Terra, you can float there or here or nor there, but Tiamat Fenrir should win you a game just on that. But with Raijin, the Rom, the Fafnir, and now a Cerberus, I'm feeling a little more Leviathans.
Look, I'm just disappointed. I saw the Horus locked in. Horus is such a fun god to watch, especially with how people utilize that ultimate. Now with the Fafnir locked in, likely would have limited his option over to more of the solo or potential jungle. Very unlikely since it's usually more of a Rongyu god. Throw the horse in his hands and support. I was excited for it. I was hoping maybe we get to see something cool and spicy come out here for Leviathans, but they stick to their guns. They stick to just what works. They lock in the Cerberus. Flip side, however, Ducky gonna get his hands on the King Arthur, and now the Heimdall gets passed up. They didn't want the Heimdall this time for Leviathans. They picked the Rum, so Heimdall now gonna go over onto the side of Imelitu.
Well, I was going to go through a whole list and be like, essentially kind of meme. I was actually going to say I'd like to see Hardcore play Amaterasu, but that's because I haven't seen Amaterasu all year. She hasn't been picked up, so I was hoping to see some of that. But Cerber as well. Yeah, this is SPL. We keep these things separate.
I saw 3 Sylvanuses so far.
Yeah, see, and then that's not as fun when we get to like November. No one's played them in the SCL or SCL. What year is it? I looked at Mifflin. That's probably what happened.
Way to go, Mifflin!
The
Distracting him over
SPL
here.
as it's been going forward. So it's we keep them separate for a reason.
Yeah. Set locked in, however.
I don't know what my point was there, other than I want my stats clean.
I just want to see, I think you and I are just on the same board. We just want to see all the gods played so far into the SPL, and we're still just waiting for maybe a team just to take a chance on that god for it. But we do see Set as the final lock in here. We've only seen him a few times this phase so far. I believe it said 3 times so far on the stat. Only 1 game that he's won. Set going into the jungle. How does this feel in Panatom's hands? I don't think I've seen Panatom play this set in quite some time.
Yeah, it's been a little while, but I don't have any distrust for it. I think the Valkyries, like this, look, they've got Fenrir, Tiamat, King Arthur. Like, if they aren't getting more than 1 kill this game, then something has gone much more wrong than a draft is going to be capable of fixing, right? And I think there's going to be more ample opportunities on this set. There's a lot more capabilities for the Valkyries to find some kills against the Leviathans. It's just going to be up to them to not only find those, but then turn them into something productive.
Well, Valkyries got 1 more shot here to try and bring us to a game 3. We'll see if they can do so. Aggro and Mifflin standing by to bring you the game.
Thank you, J-Mac and Gore. Aggro and Mifflin here for game number 2. And Miff, when I was looking, I glanced up at the drafts. I was walking into the room, and I see a Set locked in. I'm like, oh, cool. Johnny's playing Set. He hasn't played that in a long time. And it took me a minute to realize that it isn't Johnny playing Set. It's the other way around. The Leviathans are the one who have locked in this assassin for the first time in a while.
It's a lot of damage output. It's definitely a guy that you'd associate more with Johnny because he generally likes to play those auto attackers a bit more. Panatom generally likes to play those facilitators, but instead, a brand new look. I think you could argue that this entire Valkyries draft kind of screams Leviathans. I mean, yeah. I'm sure that they've played this exact draft before. I'm willing to go out on a limb and say that.
They haven't. There is a 0% chance.
Want to bet?
Yes. That these 5 Valkyries players have played these 5 gods.
No,
this season.
These 5 gods on the side of the Valkyries have been played by the Leviathans.
Not all at once.
All at once.
All at once.
Yeah.
I'll take that bet. All right. We'll work out the gems a little bit later on.
I'm sure Gore is literally furiously typing right now.
Yeah, but he probably doesn't need to search that hard because I'm right. So it should be pretty easy for him to find if you ask me. Look, I mean, this Valkyries team going with that same style. Late game, Terra for Raffer. This time you give Emilito something that can actually live through a dive, unlike the Neath that we saw in the last game. A Tiamat in mid, which I think scales a little bit better than the Raijin, with a worse early game. You got a Fenrir for initiation and setup, just like the Serket was. I mean, the Valkyries, despite not finding success, I think that it's clear that they have found what they want their identity to be. Now it's just a matter of execution.
And look, they do have some stronger early game pieces. Ducky on the King Arthur can have a lot more kill presence inside of his lane with the help of Johnny. We know Johnny is going to want to gank Soul lane if history is any indicator, and well, sure. Fenrir is pretty decent into that. I mean, Yarkor is going to have to play very intelligently around his leap as long as Johnny is lurking around inside the jungle. So I am expecting the Valkyries to do exactly this, send Johnny over to the solo.
Here he is already in this game. Ducky trying to set up, but Yarkor seems a little bit too wary to know to step up at this point. Might sense that Johnny could be around, and even if he wasn't around, Yarkor is winning the trade because of that Vamp Shroud pickup from him in that solo lane. Panatom's actually going to meet up with Johnny on this right-hand side and get some good poke onto him right before this blue buff spawns. What wanted to be a gank for the Valkyries might be turning in the Leviathan's favor, but Panatom ejects from the conversation once Ducky rotates in.
Yeah, Ducky on that rotation in a little bit earlier forces Panatom to back up. Had he left Johnny and Panatom together inside the jungle, Panatom wins that fight. Mannequin Scepters is just incredibly strong at this portion of the match, so that's why we saw Johnny just go ahead and vacate. He created, or rather vacated so much of that space around the blue buff that had Corbin able to clear a wave a little bit more quickly, that goes very differently in favor of the Leviathans.
Good purple buff, excuse me, secure by the Valkyries on this side of the map as Emilito and Raph are fighting a little bit better than they did in game number 1. Heimdall probably the product of that. Neith very good in the mid game and whenever her Spirit Arrow starts to really chunk, but in the early stages tends to struggle. Emil on the Heimdall can afford to stand and fight a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how this one kind of lines up, but as far as ADCs go, scaling, I'm favoring Zapman on this ROM, especially with this bow build, the attack speed stem that he gets from his second ability. His just matchup into Tiamat is going to go up into the air, use the Astral Barrage, and poke out Tiamat while she's in that bipedal stance and make sure she isn't a lot of
Oh, Shinto in trouble. No, it's Johnny in trouble. I thought 2v1, surely Shinto should lose. But he does not. In fact, he's going to be able to turn this around onto Zeros. I don't think Zeros will fall, but Shinto on tower line, undeterred, finds the 2v1 kill and first blood for the Leviathans.
I was like, surely Shinto had gone back to base at some point, had the power spike advantage. No, he's been chilling out there and somehow still has potions available as well. He's chilling. I mean, there was no threat there.
Big chilling, no shot. Johnny kills him in that spot, at least.
He's not even popping
Shinto's mind. No, he doesn't need to, because he's going back to base to buy a full Charon's coin off that fight. And there's an argument for Vamshroud instead of Benevolence. No shot Shinto's able to make that play if he's trying to go restored artifacts and wait until he gets the Benevolence later.
Instead, it's going to be Zapman on the opposite side in a little bit of trouble and taken out by Johnny before he's able to make his way up into the air. But that was an expensive kill. Did cost Rafford the Earthen Fury, which means that the team fight presence of the Valkyries is going to be a little bit weaker going forward. Could open up the door for the Leviathans to start to send some people over.
Got Zapman's beads at the same time, though, so a good kill for the Valkyries. Certainly want to get the ball rolling a little bit earlier than they did last time around. That is a good place to do it. And Rom, very susceptible to these Fenrir ganks. Not a whole lot of options for him to get away from the dog.
Hey, the rollout and into the cripple, all of a sudden Brutalize isn't working. It's not the best, it's not the worst either. Zapman tries to defend his purple buff, but is not quite able to do so. It seems like that invade was successful.
Yep.
I like it, man. And when I say I like it, I'm talking about Leviathan's build in mid. When you play gods like Raijin, this aggressive styling of build, going for the Vamp Shroud, not going for the Benevolence, instead saying, I'm the strongest mid lane mage, pre-5 probably. I'm going to go ahead and leverage that. And that's exactly what Shinto does. But maybe not too often you're going to see a 1 versus 2 like that.
No, I don't think so. Normally not the case, but with this mid laner, feels like anything is possible. And if it's going in his favor, as Rongyu steps up, knows that his new ADC didn't get his own purple, so he grabs one for him on the enemy side of the map. But he's going to have to feel for him soon, because Johnny's on the way. Emilito is not here, and that could matter, as Johnny's unchained off the mark. Stun from Raffer also does not find a home, and Zapman's rollout this time around is enough to let him live.
Yeah, Johnny's been having a lot more presence on map than Panatom so far, but still somehow has the experience lead as well. Panatom falling behind in both map pressure and farm, but maybe makes up for it a little bit in his objective damage. I mean, Stone Cutting Sword, Mannequin Scepter, the second that the Leviathans start looking at these neutrals, well, he's essentially just another hunter.
Feels really good whenever you can get that extra bit of damage on those objectives from your jungler. And Set is one of those gods, I mean, we haven't seen him in a little bit, but he's still in... when you talk about what you need as an assassin player, patience really comes to mind. And I don't know if anyone really exemplifies that as much as Set does as a character.
Oh,
you thought I was going to say you?
I thought you were...
As a person?
Like, as a jungler?
No.
Oh.
Mifflin, you picked Rat and jammed it down my tower every game.
And you were getting decimated. Anyway, so yeah, Set is a guy that I could see takes a little bit more patience, because you really have to choose when you're engaging these fights. Once he's in, Set's in. He doesn't have a ripcord. There is no eject button. He uses that jump in, he uses that ultimate. You're stuck inside the fight, so if you go in a little bit too early, act as that initiator for your squad, generally you're just going to die. Once this game evolves into that 5v5 state, Panatom is going to be very patient.
Oh, here comes Johnny. Finds that man this time with the Brutalize, and now Zap is low on options. Goes up into the sky, but there's not a whole lot of help coming, and Johnny's waiting for him on the landing. Raffer is the one who gets the kill with a big explosion, and Zapman's beads do not save him this time.
Man, he got eviscerated inside of that one. The Leviathans weren't quite able to send anyone else to rotate in. Panatom on the right-hand side of the map was stripping away buffs, and Shinto in mid was, well, doing Shinto things, trying to somehow miraculously go up a couple of levels. And since he's equal levels with Zeros right now, probably going to be a little while until he rotates.
Going to be a little bit, but you don't really need him to at this point. I mean, the Valkyries are in a fairly decent spot. And Johnny is doing just what we wanted, right? We're asking him to still be active on the map, but not in solo lane. He's been active and not in solo lane. He's been in duo twice, or he's been in duo 3 times. He's gotten 2 kills for it. That seems like a pretty good rate so far for the Valkyries jungler.
It is, and well, the Valkyries are looking a lot better here in Game 2 thanks to the efforts of Johnny, and it looks like could be going for, again, that bruiser styling of build, so likely going to be a Void Shield in that 3rd slot as well. I think that Johnny, honestly, with the pace that he's set right now, with the lead that he's established insofar as experience and presence, maybe could have benefited from just going a little bit more aggressive inside of the build. If he goes for Stone Cutting, goes for the Blood Forge, this full Assassin Fenrir, all of a sudden this Valhalla Valkyries draft would have had a lot more threat towards these neutral objectives. But instead, and it's the identity that they've been running with this entire set so far, it's him keeping his eyes towards that late game, wants to be in the team fight.
Satman in some trouble again. Raffer's going to need the stun, but had already used it before we tuned in, so Johnny's rotation will not be easy for him. This is right on time for the purple buff to spawn. Let's see if Zap gets some support from the squad, as he is only level 8. Compare that to Shinto's level 12. Pretty big difference, and Shinto will make the rotation over. Zeros here as well for the first time. We might have a full 4-on-4 on this side of the map, but Zapman just wants his wave. Johnny doesn't want to let him get it. Bees are still down for Zap, but now he has his ultimate as Emilito now in a weird spot. Deep. Hammer, and straight into the ultimate he goes, but Zap's snipes are going to be good. Easy kill there for the Leviathans, and now it's Johnny going in, looking for Wrong U, but I don't know if he's going to have the damage. 1 auto is necessary, but it's not enough. It's a double kill for Zapman. Panatom won his one up against Zeros, and when it was looking good, all of a sudden it is no longer for the Valkyries. 4-4-0 in the duo lane for the Leviathans.
What a crazy decision from Johnny to jump in there. Sure, I get it. Wrongyu's low HP, but Wrongyu's Wrongyu. That's he's been playing support for a while. You don't really want to trade the jungler's life out for that one, and Emilito gets a little bit caught out inside of that one. Lost maybe the thread of that team fight, thought that the purple buff invade was looking incredibly good. Well, Johnny had fully disengaged after trying to catch out Zapman, which leaves Emilito high and dry, and the Leviathans spot that out and immediately start their aggression there. Great turnaround from the Chaos team on the defense of their own purple buff, and now this gold lead, which was inconsequential just a moment ago, it's no longer can be described that way. We're approaching 4K.
That's because Leviathans win a fight 4-0 and then go get a Gold Fury right afterwards. And usually when that happens, you're going to start to see a pretty big dip, and indeed we will. 3,500 in both gold and experience for the Leviathans lead. At the very least, the Valkyries were active early, but now can you be active anymore? I don't know where Johnny goes from this point. Now Emilito is pretty far behind. Not like Zapman's super far ahead, still only level 11, but you certainly feel like you've lost some momentum on that side of the map.
Agro, are you seeing what I'm seeing? That was a 4-0 trade in favor of the Leviathans, and they have every relic still available to them, whereas the Valkyries were forced to use theirs.
Yeah, no relic pressure there on anybody on the Valkyrie side. Nice double stun, though, coming from Johnny. And this could be what they need, but Sandstorm is still available for Panatom to get away from that Brutalize, and this level 13 Cerberus is not the target. And I think the Valkyries recognize that quickly and disengage, so despite a good engagement from Johnny, they just don't have the damage. Zero's not there, Emilito, of course, into the side of the map, and Ducky not doing enough to really carry a team fight in terms of damage quite yet.
No, instead it's the Valhalla Valkyries weathering a storm. That's going to be the narrative for them, and that's their win condition. They just have to dig in their heels and defend for the next 10, 15 minutes until they start to approach level 20, get those true 6-slotted builds. And then from there, their team fight is incredibly strong. If they could somehow get into these neutral objectives from an even state, I think the Valkyries have drafted, or outdrafted rather, the Leviathans in a late game team fight. It's just about whether or not they can get there because, well, the Leviathans aren't going to make it easy and already continuing to push the lead.
Blink in from Ducky, finds the double cripple. It's a knock up onto Wrong U, and Shinto goes, are you sure? Because I'm down, and I'm going to go up into my Taiko drums And I'm going to kill Rapper with help from the rest of the boys. Wrong stun does not find a home onto Zeros. And that's a 1-for-0 for the Leviathans. And I don't think they broke a sweat, Mifflin. Again, no relics down on their side.
Bro, the Valkyries, it's almost like as if there's two shot callers right now, and they're arguing with each other. Raffer and Ducky say, guys, we're bleeding out. We need to get a bandage on this situation. Let's take this fight. I see 3 members of the Leviathans right in front of me. Unfortunately for them, one of them was Shinto, who is level 15, by the way, on this Raijin. They try and take that engagement. Who else is there to help them out? Johnny's nowhere in range. I mean, Emilito's an ADC. He's on the opposite side of the map. Can't really put too much in his boat, but where's Zeros on that one? It just feels like the Valkyries didn't really agree on what needed to be done there.
Yeah.
And you can't be having that at the highest level of play.
I mean, I don't know about you, Miff, but I'm a big fan of the let's take a low-risk play or a high-risk, high-reward play now. Because otherwise,
Wait, what's the risk, though?
Well, the risk is like we're going to lose if this play doesn't go
high
well.
risk, high reward. That's
right,
what we're talking about. Okay.
but if you see the trajectory of the game going, we are likely to lose anyways. I'd rather take a risky play now to try and get us back into it than sit around on our hands and just get destroyed underneath our Phoenixes in 8 minutes. You know, I think that proactivity is just better in a lot of situations, and that's the type of play that I agree with. Ducky and Raffer probably feeling like, hey, we've got to make a play happen. It doesn't work, but it's better than them just allowing the Leviathans to do whatever, like, say, find Ducky between his tier 1 and tier 2, kill him, and take his blue.
Take his blue buff, take his bad camps, and laugh at his corpse as well. I agree, man. I've been a huge proponent of, look, we're 3,000 gold down right now, and I'm not looking forward to playing this game 5,000 gold down. In fact, I'd say that's a long shot win. Let's go ahead and let's speed it up. Let's push the envelope. Let's take this play that would happen 5 minutes from now on a neutral objective, and instead force it right now and figure out what's going to happen. Unfortunately for the Valkyries, they figured it out.
Let's roll in from Zapman in the 2v1. Emilito has to Aegis because he was toast, and if Zapman can find him with this first shot, he'll get the kill, but instead he's focusing in on Johnny, who has a little bit better mobility. So Zap does not get a kill in the 2v1. But I don't know if that should be the bar, as now Zeros has to jump away. Tycho drums, needs to hit all 4, got 3 of 4, but the Aegis was enough to save Zero's life. But you're starting to feel how much the Leviathans are feeling themselves. Zapman rolling in a 2v1. Shinto jumping in on tower line. There is not an ounce of fear on their side.
Raiju doesn't connect, so Raffer should be able to make his way out, but that was all a play from Shinto just to create some space around the Oni Fury, which does go the way of the Leviathans, and this gold lead, this bleeding, has pushed itself even further. Now 7,000 at 15 minutes. We're getting to the realm of out of reach pretty soon here. The Valhalla Valkyries need to make a stand, and they need to make that stand as 5 members. It can't just be Raffer and Ducky.
Zero's now relicless after Yarfor pulls the beads with the Stygian Torment. And I don't think that that's all he really wants. This looks like a potential dive coming from the Leviathans with a wave coming in, and Zero's still on the ground. Can't clear the wave particularly well. And there it is. Sunder directly into some damage. Zero should have the ability to back up a little bit, but I don't think it would have mattered either way. As Johnny getting out is really the win that you take. That is the faintest silver lining there for the Valkyries, but we take those, okay? We take those in this position.
Dude, I'm imagining Johnny like getting back to base is like, easy clap, baby! I thought you were putting me down for the 3rd time this game? No shot! And, well, he does make it back to base, but there's not much he's going to be able to do with that time. I think the Leviathans, legitimately, 16.5 minutes in this game, go to Fire Giant, guys. Like, just do it.
Yeah, just do it. I mean, and we're not even part of a Nike campaign, but they should just go do it.
Are you even allowed to say that, like, on cast?
I don't know. I might be getting a letter from Eugene pretty soon, but, you know, that's Eugene, Oregon. That's where Nike is stationed, not a man named Eugene.
What?
The look you gave me was like I name-dropped someone from Nike that I know, but it's not.
I thought it was wild that you decided that as a bit, you should say the location with which a letter originated on the way to you.
Correct.
That's like me saying, yeah, I'm going to get a letter from Florida soon when I'm talking about, like, the Heats.
The Heats?
Yeah, the Miami Heats.
You win, bro. I can't come with the Miami Heats.
There's more than one of them, bro.
No. Heat is plural as it is, dog. It doesn't need the S. Thank God they're fighting, because I can't do it anymore, man. Ducky's dead. He's beads. It doesn't matter. They have the Leviathans have got the damage at this point, and like we said, they can do whatever they want, including make a bad reference that apparently will kill your co-caster. Johnny just trying to defend his speed, but Panatom has already decided that this is his part of the jungle now, and Emilito gets that message a little bit late. Panatom is going to get picked up and put underneath the tier 2, but A gets immune the shot. Nice double stun coming from Johnny, but Panatom does not die. In fact, it's actually the other way around. You see what had happened was we thought that Panatom was going to die, but then he gets a double kill instead, and now it's Raffer, the lone member of the Valhalla Valkyries. Great stun from Yarkor, and it feels like the Leviathans just do not have anything to worry about on the other side. A deicide at 18.5 minutes, and the Leviathans get to choose what they want to take from the jungle.
Legitimately, I thought that it was an amazing play from Johnny to turn that around with a double stun unchained.
It was sick.
And I was like, all right, so they're stunned, and we're going the bow build on my Hunter, and he's only like 40 units away, so it's going to be like 3 auto attacks from Emilito while they're stunned, and then they're dead. And, well, no, double stun comes through. Emilito was retreating into his tower, turned around, said, oh, they're kind of low, walks up, gets slammed by Skewer, and loses his life. Leviathans now with Fire Giant on 5, and only 2 towers, or maybe 1 1/10 towers standing between them and the birds of the Valkyries. I think it's going to be pretty soon that we get to talk about the bird defense from the Valkyries.
Yeah, it seems like it's going that way. I mean, Miff, you had a longer playing career than me because you retired me, and that's, you know, I'm just trying to butter you up a little bit so you can expand upon this point I'm about to make. When you're in a position like the Valkyries where things have not been going that well, surely you've been in bad situations before on teams. Not one of your teams was bad.
Well, you're looking at me like if I don't own up to it now, you're going to bring up like Season 2 Elevate.
I am.
So, okay, yeah, ask the question.
Okay, so when you're on a team that is struggling, what are these games like, and how do you try and turn it around?
I personally threw up a ton of F6 votes, but my team was never privy to it.
Well, Johnny is dead, and so is Emilito. So they almost interrupted you, but it seems like you can keep on going about it.
Yeah, so generally it's about maintaining strong mental. You want to make sure you are not getting deterred by the fact that you're getting beat up so consistently, and instead you got to play these mental gymnastics. And normally when I say mental gymnastics, people have a bad denotation or connotation. I don't know the difference. I dropped out. It's not a bad thing when you're gassing yourself up. You got to gaslight only yourself, and if that's the case, the Valkyries can come into this fight with a smile and, you know, look good, feel good, turn it around.
As a competitor, ego is good.
Yes.
Need some.
A little bit.
Little bit. Gotta walk the fine line. Zero's getting dove right now by Panatom, who does not beads, accepts the fact that Zero's has jumped away, and will settle for the left side Phoenix. As the Leviathans head towards the mid lane, Johnny gonna step up, say, apology, sir, tip his cap, try and run away, but Wrongview has different thoughts. Snipes are good, but it doesn't need it because Wrongview had the damage all by himself. Panatom now into the back line, finds one, unstoppable, and now another as he has fallen as well. Zeros dies, they all fall as the Valkyries are going to get swept here by the Leviathans. The new look Leviathans looking awfully good here in today's set.
Early game pressure, Panatom playing set jungle, which is by and large one of the largest departures from just general God pool that I've seen. Panatom generally likes to play those facilitators. I'm not going to argue with it.
No.
It's so hard to break down sets like this because the Leviathans won.
Yes.
And that's about as deep as the analysis can go, I think.
Yeah, look, I mean, I've been doing this a little bit longer
They're
than
going to
you.
get a letter from the Heats.
Sometimes.
The Titan.
Okay. All right. You know what? I was going to expand upon a point, make some, you know, sort of elegant point about how, you know, teams struggle, and some teams sometimes they just have to go through it.
Steelers?
But in fact, Mifflin has ruined everything as per usual. And in fact, we're going to have to go to a break so that I can have a discussion with Mifflin about how teams are named, because he clearly doesn't get it.
Welcome back to the desk here for the SPL, powered by Alienware. You can get all of your Alienware gear, including the Aurora Ryzen 10 desktops or the 240Hz gaming monitor 25-inch over at smitegame.com/Alienware. Make sure to use your code SMITEAW for all your fancy discounts. Again, thank you to our title sponsor, Alienware, for providing all this great gear for our pros and for all of you alike as well. And Gormizer, after a rough 2 games for the Valkyries, the Leviathans able to come out on top with another set win for themselves, putting them at that 4-3 threshold.
And this is something I anticipate we're going to see a little bit more of, right? Like, the Leviathans, first off, that's clinical, the way that they just kind of run through the Valkyries there, but that's what you expect of this team, and it feels good, right? Like, I mean, it's just like not just something that I think feels good for them, but it's fun to watching them be this synergistic as well. And so I anticipate a lot in the coming time because, look, I mean, regardless of how some of these roster swaps really occurred, because I think some of them were pre and post bans for players in the league, but it looks like they're in a better spot now than they were before. I think this is a team that has always struggled when it came to, you know, like their playoffs performance, any LAN quote-unquote performances over the last couple of years. And so this is a real good moment for them, not only to look good here, but because they have Zap on there, but look, back-to-back world champ, he's the opposite of LAN problems. It feels like they've kind of married the best of both worlds. And theoretically, if they can continue this success, do really well, Phase 2 playoffs, if they can, you know, get there, this is the kind of performance I want to see from them in some of those games to be able to maybe find their first LAN win.
I mean, I don't think you can, as a player or as a team, ever feel bad when you have a plus 10 KDA for your mid laner and your jungler in the exact same game on
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's never going to feel good for the enemy team, but for you, you're just like, man, I'm on top of the world. Unstoppable? Let's just shoot for godlike on the next one. Not able to get quite that high onto it, but an 11 and a 10.5 KDA for the mid jungle respectively. I think that's a pretty stark, just, you can't give up these kinds of picks over to him, and I think the biggest one, you can't give up the drum, else you're a dum-dum, especially when Shinto is the one piloting the drum.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the 2 picks that right now have been dominated on. And actually, really, the 1 pick, it's this Raijin. It's banned against them a lot for a reason. That was the reason.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on the players you choose from the Valkyries there, he did more damage than 3 of them combined. There was a 5,000 to 6,000, I think a 7,000 there. And so he's knocking out 20,000 there. You have to figure out a way to beat this team. And as of right now, at least for the Valkyries, today wasn't that day.
No, the Valkyries unfortunately do fall yet again, putting them down to 1-7 amongst the standings. The Atlantis Leviathans, however, able to boost themselves up and get away from that 3-3 middle ground, though we do have 2 more 3-3 teams that will be going up against each other just after this.
Yeah.
The Dragons and the Tartarus Titans will be facing off next, so somebody else will get to claim their spot up there and remain tied with the Leviathans for the time being. But as far as this one goes, Leviathans, I think you put it best, this new roster, it just looks so dominant.
And what I like, so first off, it's fun to mention because no matter, like you said, no matter what, someone's going to win this next set, still to be tied with the Leviathans. Kind of feels like they're keeping a fire underneath them, and that goes into what I like, which is this is a team, Phase 1 of last year, they win everything. It doesn't matter. They're top of the league, and then they don't get the LAN. They look really good, maybe not dominant, but really good in Phase 2, and they don't win the LAN. The same thing happens when they get to Worlds. They don't win the LAN. Same thing happened in Phase 1. I actually like seeing them, again, make that crawl towards the top, but recognizing that they're improving now. Before, they were just really good all the time, but now you can see those steps in the right direction, and that gives me a lot more hope when it comes to the LAN stage for this team.
Yeah, kind of that. We're good in the regular season, not so much when it comes to the big events. Well, now you got Zapman on there, who historically has not had the best in the regular season, but has always had a really great LAN performance. But all that aside, we do have Shinto standing by for our post-game interview with the Leviathan. Shinto, congratulations on your win. Well, one thing that we kind of want to ask on to here is Morgan Le Fay now being in the competitive scene. We've been seeing a lot of players prioritize her, whether it's first pick or first ban. How is she kind of shaking up this mid-lane meta?
I think she's like the number 1 mid laner right now. She's so strong. The thing with her, he has a lot of CC. He has a slow, a fear. He has a knock up and a knockback in 2 abilities. So she's really strong. I think it's the best mage right now.
Yeah, I think you made her look good there in game number 1. And we kind of talked to Wrong You about how his dynamic with Zapman now joining the team has kind of changed up. How has Zapman helped improve you guys and really helped you out as well over in that mid lane?
I think it's a pleasure to have a player like Steven because he do a lot of like shot calling in late game, and I'm doing a lot of tasks of in-game leader. So we're gonna improve a lot with him, and yeah.
All right, well, with that, thank you so much, Shinto. Again, congratulations on your win, boosting you guys up to 4-3 onto it. And we're going to go ahead and take it to a break. When we get back, though, we do have one more set for you guys, the Jade Dragons and the Tartarus Titans. After the break, we'll be right back.